Now, today is Holocaust Memorial Day and also 75 years since the liberation of the Auschwitz concentration camp. To mark the date, the Duchess of Cambridge photographed survivors with their grandchildren. Speaking about the images, she said, "I have been lucky enough to meet two of the now very few survivors. Not everyone in the future will be able to hear these stories firsthand. It is vital that their memories are passed on to future generations so that what they went through will never be forgotten." And this is something that you absolutely wholeheartedly agree with, isn't it?
I really do, and I think we all want to pay respect. This is a very, very important day, and we should pay respect to it. I watched a lot of film over the weekend, saw the horror, really, of Auschwitz, but at the same time saw the bravery of an awful lot of people who survived it. And there was one family, and, you know, they hid the neighbours next door under the floorboards and things and put their own lives at risk, but they wanted to do that, and therefore they saved those people's lives.
Yeah.
But then there was another man who, I really was in tears when I saw this one, because he had lost all his family. He'd lost his parents, his grandparents, his brothers, his sister. He was the only survivor who managed to get out of Auschwitz at the end of it all. And I thought to myself, how would anybody ever survive that? How would you ever start any kind of life again if you've lost your entire family in that horrendous and vile way? But I suppose there's an element of survival, you know, when you're in that position, and he had carved out a new life. But he did say something interesting. He said that really for about the first 40 years, he didn't really talk too much about it.
Yeah. Yes.
It's only in recent times. And I think it's really important that we, including my grandchildren in this case, I think it's important that young people are reminded or learn for the first time
100%,
of the horrors. So I don't know what you feel about that.
Absolutely. No.
I think it's really important, you know?
I talk about it often in our house, because obviously my family, not necessarily... Our family were Jewish immigrants from Russia and Poland before the Second World War, but it's still something that we personally feel... It's something that it's a conversation that needs to be had. So we talk about it with our children. But I think the history is, after obviously reading and writing and arithmetic, is the most important subject that needs to be taught in schools, because otherwise mistakes will carry on being made, horrors will be repeated. And I think especially the next generation will think that they're the first to experience things, when actually these horrors have happened before, and history will repeat itself unless you learn from those horrific incidents.
And the horror to me is, sorry, just say, it happened in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So I am 75, and so therefore I just find that extraordinary. I really find it very, very touching and very emotional over the
I think
weekend.
if we look at the problems of the world today, they do go back to history. They go back to a long time ago, or not so long time ago. And you would think that we learn, but actually, you know, when I met Steve, Steve knew a lot about World War I, World War II, because they affected his family, and that it was, you know, history that he was taught. But actually, he didn't really know very much about India and Pakistan and the reasons that they got partitioned. He didn't understand.
Which I don't.
He didn't really know about how Britain, you know, went over to India and ruled that country for 200 years and actually upset a whole way of life for many people. And that's why there's tensions in that part of the world now, because it goes back to what, you know, the British did all that time ago. And I think in school sometimes a lot of that history is whitewashed. We don't learn about...
Well, a lot of the history
why
is
immigrants
about the
are over here
Tudors and
as well.
Stuarts, and we learn about this massive historic period of time, which of course is important. But I think that, as you say, things that happened in our lifetime or in our parents' lifetime should absolutely be taught. I mean, Louis has gained a huge interest in it because of this 75 years coming up. He's 18 now, and he asked me the question the other day, "Mum, I've been watching all these films. How can there be Holocaust deniers?" And apparently there is an increase in those because of the, you know, the far-right movement and stuff. So it's very important to keep that,
It's an important subject.
alive.
It's an important subject.
And I think, you know, we also need to remember that history books are written by the victors. So you're never going to get a truly accurate portrayal of what's happened. But nowadays, with technology, and people vilify social media, but actually what it means is real people are recording real events. So we're getting a 360-degree version of what is actually happening in our time.